Hayden, and I'm a member of your Board of Trustees. Neighborhood Church creates and grows an inclusive community of faith centered by love, spirit, and service. We acknowledge our presence on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples, the traditional caretakers of the lands and waters of this campus. With respect for the rights and wisdom of Indigenous people, we acknowledge our harmful colonial histories and commit to decolonizing our own practices, to learning new ways of being in community and with each other, in good relationship with Indigenous people of this land and with the land itself. Today's service is led by Senior Minister Reverend Dr. Omega Burkhardt, with music by Music Director Dr. Zenaida Robles. Please take a moment to silence your devices as we begin our service. Thank you for joining us as we continue to prioritize connection over perfection in this hybrid service, which is streamed and recorded on YouTube. Families with young children are welcome in the sanctuary or in the narthex. After service today at 1 p.m., the writing group, led by Lexi Schwade, will meet in room 23, and all are welcome. Are you new to Unitarian Universalism or Neighborhood Church? Are you interested in learning more about the ways Unitarian Universalism is changing in the world today? This Tuesday, November 7th at 7 p.m., please join Reverend Omega and Ginger Furry, our Neighborhood and Communications Manager, in Ross Chapel for an interactive conversation that, while geared for newer UUs or the UU curious, everyone is welcome to attend. No RSVP is required. Our order of service and more extensive announcements are available as a link in the Sunday email, posted in the narthex, or through the QR code on the back of your hymnal. You can always get more information on these and many more activities at the welcome table. Again, welcome to Neighborhood Church, whoever you are and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. Welcome to this inclusive faith community connected by love, spirit, and service.
Welcome to this space of hope. Welcome to this space where your whole self can be. Bring with you your grief, your sadness, your joy. Welcome this morning. We light our chalice this morning using the words by Unitarian minister Edward Everett Hale. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. So come, let us worship together this morning.
Our opening hymn is Come, Come, Whoever You Are, which is number 188 in your gray hymnal. We will sing this 3 times through in total. The first time, we'll sing it all together in unison. And the second and third time, we'll sing it in canon. If you're on this side of my hand, you get to start the canon. And if you're on this side, you will follow, and I will indicate when you are to start. At the end, when you finish singing the thing for a total of 3 times, please stop. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
Good morning. I am Matt Vasco, Director of Spiritual Exploration here at Neighborhood Church, and I would love to welcome all of the children and youth forward for a story for all ages, please. Come on down. Have a seat right here. Gather round. So our November theme is generosity. And I have a book about generosity this morning and what can happen when people all over the world act in a spirit of generosity. And it's called A Good Thing Happened Today by Michelle Figueroa with illustrations by Ramona I knew I was going to get it wrong. Kolitsky. Well, you're kidding. Your house is on Figueroa. What the? Well, maybe she grew up there too, and that's why she changed her name. Nice to meet you, Ernie Figueroa. That's not right. Okay. All right. A good thing happened today. A good thing happened today. Hooray! Did you hear? Good things are happening every day and everywhere. When you look a little closer, you will surely find the world is mighty and loving, and it is kind. Mighty and loving and kind. Some people bring water to places without rain, and this is Savo, Kenya. Some people will sacrifice so others can gain. It doesn't take a lot because goodness is free. If you think outside the box, good things happen, you'll see. Like a library built from discarded old books, books full of new wonder and adventurous outlooks. There is goodness we can't touch, good that's not a thing. Good can be a moment or a melody to sing. Like songs played on cobblestone, freely off the cuff, for change, marbles, or smiles, 'cause love's payment enough. And this says Bogota, Colombia. We are never too young, and we are never too old to do good deeds, to take a leap and be bold. Whether it's a diploma, this says Ithaca, New York, or a kind letter, token sealed with hope can make our world better. And the letter is being sent in the Netherlands. Some good things happen by a helping hand or two. As long as someone's in need, there's good left to do. Like knitting old sweaters into blankets soft and warm for those who need blankets. Helpers help, givers give, and love weathers every storm. And so we see lots of people with the blankets in the cold. When disaster strikes home and dark clouds make gray skies, this says Puerto Rico, good is a splash of color, a seed of new life. This sign here says save wildlife, and there are snacks and prizes. And it says there's no need to search far. Close by there's good in every backyard and in every neighborhood. That's nice to remember, right? Good things can happen inside your home, too, as loved ones softly whisper, "Good night, I love you." It's good to let people know they are loved. And where do good things come from? They come from inside your heart. Always choose to be kind. It's a choice. It's a choice we can choose to be kind, because that's where good things start. And then back here, when we turn the page, we see that all of the good things that happened in the book are real things that happened in the world that the author learned about and then shared with us. Isn't that wonderful? Good things happen today and every day, and we can help make them happen. Okay? All right, let's sing all the children and youth off to their spiritual exploration classes.
Giving is a spiritual practice through which we put our values into action. Each Sunday, our congregation dedicates 100% of its contributions to a local social justice organization or activity. In addition to the plate, online giving is available using the QR code on the donations box just outside the sanctuary or using the text instructions shown on the screen. If you wish to make a payment towards your pledge or contribute to church operations, make a note in the subject line or use an envelope available at the donation box. This week, our gifts go to the California Forensic Science Institute at California State University, Los Angeles. Here to tell us more is Executive Director Catherine Roberts.
Hello, good morning. So Kathy Roberts, Executive Director of CFSI. So we're on the Cal State Lake campus as part of the Hertzberg-Davis Forensic Science Center. This is a very large operational lab that probably examines all physical evidence across LA County for criminal investigations. My particular role, though, through the Institute is in the capacity of the academic programs that we have. We train essentially future forensic scientists, and we have a number of different programs that we implement that have a social justice focus. So for example, many of the research projects that we work on are brought to light through looking at wrongful convictions. So we have a relationship with the Los Angeles Innocence Project, and we've most recently developed a more focused group with the Compton Innocence Initiative. So what we do essentially is we look at the cases. Our graduate students are front and center of everything that we do. We look at the cases, but we look at it with the technology that we have in 2023, particularly with areas such as DNA, because many of these cases were the 1980s, 1990s, where the technology was very outdated. So that's kind of one of the programs that we work with. We also have community events, so we meet the people most impacted by the wrongful convictions. So we meet the families, the extended families, and it sort of puts a perspective in our students that, you know, they're not just reading from a textbook. These have real life implications. So what's really important to me, of course, is that I share my scientific knowledge with our students, with the community, in the interest of justice and the interest of the general public good. And I try to instill that with my students every day. I just wanted to share an interesting fact that you may not know about Cal State LA. We are actually ranked #1 in the nation for what's considered upward mobility. So we essentially, what that translates to is we take the students that are in the lowest 20% income, and by the time that they graduate and then they become employed, we place them successfully in the upper 20% in terms of their income. So we're very proud of that, and I know our program is, again, front and center of that. So if you have any interest in touring a forensic science lab and some of the programs, I'm very happy to do that. I can give you a short version, or I can give you an extended version. So thank you I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Will today's volunteers please bring the plates forward? And thank you for giving generously today.
I just wanted to share that we're so delighted and grateful to have, I just forgot your last name. Wendy Hunter. I was like, Wendy, everybody knows Wendy. Wendy Hunter as our guest soloist today. Thank you, Wendy.
We gather in this space on Sundays, some of us more frequently, as a sanctuary, as a refuge for a moment, as a place where we find community, where we bring our whole selves, our hurt selves, our happy selves, we bring our sorrow, and we bring our pain. As a community, we gather in this space, and to gather requires that we all pitch in some way. And sometimes that feels really hard when we look at the world, when we see the world around us, and we think, what can we do? How can we help? So I offer you a reading today, and this was written by Ram Dass and Paul Gorman. It's an anecdote that I'd like to share with you where they address How can I help? Through a story. It goes like this. You ask yourself what is helping, or who helps, or what helps, and how much. And when are you and when aren't you helping? And the whole conversation can get a little dizzy. I got evidence of this on a phone call one day. I was talking to a woman who was working for the Gallup poll. She's actually doing a poll on how much time people spend helping. She's trying to explain the criteria. I finally start to crack up, seeing something of the absurdity of it all. You are all crazy. How much time are people helping? What kind of question is that? Tell Gallup he's nuts. She started to laugh as well. I know, that's what I said too. What can I tell you? It's a job. She was sort of whispering, which made me laugh more. We got into this conspiratorial, infectious laughter at it all. When we stopped laughing, I asked, was that helping? She said, well, I guess so, sort of. Why was it? And I said, well, that's your job. You tell me why. And then I threw in we were trying to make the best of a nutty situation. In fact, what I'm trying to do all the time is to make the best of a nutty situation. That's it. I want you to put me down in the Gallup poll as someone who helps all the time. She laughed. Then she said, well, we don't have a category for all of the time. Oh, ye of little faith, I responded. She said, but we do have a line here that says all of the above. At this point, I didn't know she was kidding, but I went for it. Perfect. Put me down for under all of the above. I am a very all of the above kind of person. In fact, you have to put everybody down under all of the above. Everybody is trying to make the best of a nutty situation. Gallup can release a poll saying everybody in America is helping. She said, I wish I had the nerve. Maybe I'll do it with alternate answers. 1 out of every 2 people in America is helping. The other half is being helped. By this point, we were in love with the idea of throwing the topic back into blessed confusion, which is where it really is anyhow. Finally, we said goodbye. It's been great, I said. Very helpful, she agreed. Months later, there's a story in the newspaper. Gallup poll reveals half of all Americans help out as volunteers. Right there in the paper. She pulled it off. I rush into the kitchen reading the headline out to my wife. That's me, I exclaim. Which half, says my very formidable and wonderful wife. All of the above, I answer triumphantly. Just wash the dishes, she says. And thus ends our reading for today. People say, what is the sense of our small effort? They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time and take one step at a time. These are the opening words of an adaptation of words written by Dorothy Day. They are found in the back of our hymnal. Some of you may be familiar with them. Perhaps they're new to some of you. The selection ends this way. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread out in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has a right to sit down and feel hopeless. There's too much work to do. Our theme this month is generosity, and we will begin our exploration this month of this theme by thinking about those words and the something we can do, inspired by the words of Dorothy Day and the Unitarian minister Edward Hale. I gave his words at the beginning of our service as our chalice lighting. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. I will admit to you all, as I planned out this sermon topic earlier this fall, I'd hoped that it would be a joyous celebration of all that this church community has been through, followed then by a deep ask for you to re-engage in this church by signing up to be a volunteer. I was going to ask you to sign up to help pass the plate, or to be a greeter, or to lead a committee, or create an event for dining for $. And in some ways, dear ones, it will still be this. However, I realized that I can't jump right into that without acknowledging my own discomfort and the sadness that I hold, because to jump into that feels like we're being neglectful of something very serious, disingenuous, actually, about the real worry and fear and sadness about the things that are happening in our world right now, of the weight and the sadness that many of us are carrying in our hearts, watching events unfold in Ukraine, in Israel, in Gaza, and also of the pain that members of this community, both right here in this church and our broader interreligious community and our area, the frustration, the desperation that we are all living with every day. Anger at intersecting issues caused by extractive capitalism and systems of oppression that seek profit at the expense of climate and of targeted communities. Systems that seek death as retribution. It feels disingenuous to celebrate when all of that is going on. In short, when I was preparing this sermon, I sat with those words by Dorothy Day, and I really wrestled with those last lines. No one has a right to sit down and feel hopeless. There's too much work to do. I sat with those words, and I realized actually that we do have a right to sit down and feel hopeless. To sit down and maybe cry with our heads in our hands, to grieve, to be angry, to be sad or scared, to not feel empathy, to not feel grief or sadness means that we could never hope to also feel called to do something about it when and if we become ready to. Or more accurately, those of us who are called to action should also hold space for those who need to grieve and feel sadness, and vice versa. And for a community to be healthy, we can hold space for the need to detach for a while, just as we can celebrate the need for all kinds of engagement of the heart and engagement of the mind and engagement of the works of our hands and our feet. So perhaps Dorothy Day's words hold true, but more in the abstract for me. We need to create space for people to allow the gravity of our situation, the gravity of our big situations and our small, to wash over us. Just as we can also support the work of those who are changing the world for the better. And we can also hold the complexity that we will be those same people, maybe even in the same day, certainly in the same month or lifetime. Sometimes we will seek refuge, and at other times we provide it. And at others, some of us will work to eliminate the cause for seeking refuge in the first place. And that is what is at the heart of generosity, I realize. It is a relationship built on mutual support, a relationship that creates space for all our dynamic states to exist at once and to change and to ebb and flow with time as our personal and collective experiences change. A few weeks ago, we talked a bit about the language of the revisions to Article 2 that the UUA is considering, and I would like to pause and just remind us that the UUA is us. We are also the UUA, so we are considering this language for adoption. Some of you may recall you have quite latched on to JetPig. The G is there, of course, at the end. G is for generosity. And here is how this value is described in these words. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, our presence, and our resources, Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. What I see in those words is it is a generosity based on the abundance of a group. It's meant to overcome the scarcity of an individual. The Reverend Nancy McDonald Ladd addresses this fundamental generosity as an optimism based on the creation and nourishment of relationships. In a chapter of After the Good News, and the chapter title is Fundamentally Estranged, Inextricably Interconnected, she outlines how this trajectory of Unitarianism and Universalism since the 1800s to today was first born of an abstraction of separation, an abstraction of interconnection. Then in the 20th century, that became triumphalism. Hey, look at our progressive interconnectedness. But it was not inclusive. To today, where we have these messy and complicated but deliberate calls for relationship. And these are her words here. The boldest and most influential 19th century reformers were often similarly disconnected from the social context of their times. They too engaged in projects of reform while using their privilege to maintain a degree of paternalistic remove from the people and events they sought to change. She goes on to say in the 1840s, the Constitution of Communal Living enshrined their faithfulness to grand abstraction, and it said, "We propose a radical and universal reform rather than to redress any particular wrong or to remove the sufferings of any class of human being." And so, she goes on, the liberal church in the 19th century gave its heart to abstraction. In the 20th century, fueled by an overwhelming force of American exceptionalism and the rising power of modernist thought, the faithfulness to grand abstraction was layered underneath a declarative triumphalism that made the liberal church believe all things were possible through our own moral advancement, even while failing to acknowledge that such advancement was continually centered around the experiences and ideals of privileged white people. In the 21st century, accustomed to the preaching of this progressive good news and grounded in this historic faithfulness to grand abstraction, the liberal churches continue to expect liturgical triumphalism and social action programming that delivers paternalistic aid for the people at the margins, even as the world cries out for something more. The problem is not simply our optimism. The problem is not even our hubris. The problem is our continued estrangement. And the answer for this estrangement, while incomplete and messy and complicated in the extreme, has been there waiting for us all along. It is and has always been relationship. So, what is generosity then in the context of a growing need for relationship and mutual support? I'd like to read the lines again from the Unitarian minister Edward Everett Hale that opened our service. "I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do." Edward Everett Hale, Unitarian minister and abolitionist in the early 1800s, wrote those words And now, thinking about the context that Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd gives, that the 1800s were a time of abstractionism in terms of relationship building and mutual support, I see Edward Hale's stalwart individuality as maybe inspiring, but also completely devoid of connection to systems of interdependence. What if he hadn't been only but one? What if he couldn't do everything? No, but together with others he could. What if we reframe that solitary grittiness of I am only one to I am one of many? And we care for each other so that when I can only do one thing, others may do more. Or I can do more now so that you, dear one, may rest, so that you may find refuge. So what is the something you can do? What if we reframe that? What is the something you can do being supported by others, giving support to others, so that we all can find a place of solace and refuge when we need it? This is a generosity of faith and presence. This is the generosity of resources, financial resources, yes, but mostly it's our time. It's our emotional labor, it is our physical labor, it is our energy, it's our attention, it is our love. The world is a scary place right now, and for many of us in this space, it has felt scary for a long time. In a time when problems of the world seem devastating, they are devastating, it can feel like there is nothing we can do. And I wonder if this is in part to the increasing awareness of how we are interconnected. Our world has become smaller, and the hurts of the world are our hurts. But I wonder, can the generosity of spirit that is ours be the world's too? Can it radiate back outwards? Perhaps. Perhaps what is fundamental is that we create relationships of mutual care where we can, which is right here, as a way to combat the toxic positivity, the toxic individualism of having to do it all on our own. Perhaps if we do that right here, we can do something. The one thing that we can do, but together, not alone. If we engage in the ways that we can, when we can, and we are not doing so because of the idea that if we don't, no one else will. If we engage when and where we can because we know that we are being held in a community that allows for each person to rest in their weariness when needed, we are healthy. We engage when and where we can so that we too can rest and find refuge. Our generosity of time and faith and presence and other resources is not about giving what you can all the time. Rather, it's about being in community where right relationships create systems of mutuality and interdependence. Systems of mutuality and interdependence that don't see others as less than ourselves, where estrangement from others that we saw in that 18th century theology, where that estrangement is no longer an option, systems of mutuality and interdependence that help heal a broken world. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread out in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has a right to sit down and feel hopeless. There's too much work to do. I have wrestled with these words, and while I love Dorothy Day, I agree and disagree. I think that they are a partial truth. You don't have to do it all. You don't even have to do one part all the time, and you don't have to do it alone. And you have the right to sit and feel hopeless. But maybe, like in the story I read earlier, it's as small as doing the dishes so your partner doesn't have to. Maybe it's opening the door for someone with a smile on Sunday morning because you know that you will likely be carrying a heavy burden another day. Or maybe it's knowing that you can find safety and refuge, a sanctuary in a broken world when you need it, because others, guided by a generosity of spirit, have helped create that for you here today. May it be so.
Our closing hymn is number 128 in your gray hymnal, For All That Is Our Life. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing number 128, For All That Is Our Life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with thanks and praise. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pains, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all that is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
May we go from here today knowing that there is something we can do. May we go here held by others who create space for us to come as our whole selves, where we bring our gladness and our grief. May we go from here like pebbles in a pond, where our generosity, born of love and mutual care, help make our world a better place. Amen.
you.